Hello and welcome to Useful Idiots. I'm one of your hosts, Katie Halper.
And I'm Aaron Maté. Katie, it's a special day today. We're celebrating your birthday. So happy birthday.
Oh my God, thank you.
I got some wrapping paper that I decided to pull out to celebrate this special day. So happy birthday. I'm going to throw it up again.
That's so great. It's like big chunks of confetti.
Exactly.
Yeah. I really like that. That's great. Thank you. It has a very like Frida Kahlo coloring. It's great.
Yeah. So happy birthday, Katie.
Thank you, Aaron.
And on behalf of all your fans and our audience, thank you for all you do. And it's great to do this with you. So I hope you have a great day today.
Thank you so much. That is so nice. And guys, you know what you can do as a birthday present to me? You can like the stream. You can subscribe to this wonderful YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the wonderful Substack. And you can just keep being you. I'd like that. Speaking of which, did you tweet this out, Aaron? We got to make sure we tweet it out.
Oh, my bad.
No, it's okay.
I'll do that right now.
All right. I feel like there was something. Oh, Twitter just wished me a happy birthday. That is
very sweet.
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Not as good as yours, but they had some balloons that just went across the screen.
Oh, that's exciting. And too bad that Elon Musk won't be
I know.
around to be wishing you happy birthday next year. It looks like, unfortunately, he's not getting it. Big shocker. Big shocker.
Big shocker, I know. Yeah. So much drama from Elon. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah.
Well, we were off last week, which means we have a supersized show this week.
We do, yeah. Yeah. And should we just start with what we love, which is a recap from Chuck Todd.
The Chucks are out. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right.
Good Sunday morning. Good Sunday morning. The phrase you hear most often these days when frustrated Democrats talk about President Biden is meet the moment, as in, can President Biden meet the moment? Americans arguably elected Joe Biden for two reasons. One, because he wasn't Donald Trump, and two, because he was going to bring some stability and competence to the White House and calm the country down, turn down the volume, if you will. And while Mr. Biden certainly has succeeded in not being Donald Trump, many more progressive Democrats complain that the president needs to show more passion, bang the table, raise the volume, take some chances, challenge the boundaries. In other words, meet the moment that these crises have entailed. All the talk about Mr. Biden's lack of passion is really code for concern about his age. So is the criticism fair? Mr. Biden has actually delivered the presidency he promised. He's been a grown-up who plays by the rules. Some think plays by the rules too well. And he does try to work with Republicans when he can, though some think he shouldn't try so much. But the Democrats' progressive base has always wanted more, and Mr. Biden was never their first choice. So even if the criticism isn't fair, the sentiment is real. And potential Democratic White House hopefuls are quietly, and in some cases not so quietly, preparing to have their moment if the president doesn't meet his.
Okay.
I love how he just declares that progressive criticism of Biden isn't fair.
Right, exactly. You know, there's no debate. It's just not fair. They're asking too much, as always. They're like these little immature brats. That's always the subtext. But right, he just declares it unfair. He just attributes it to ageism, which it's not. There's so much to dislike about Biden. Like, give the guy some credit. You know, he's so much more than a human husk who can't get off a bicycle. He actually sucks on policy. And I thought it was so pathetic, though, that they actually said that he promised, like, the thing he ran on was not being Trump, which he is not. He's literally giving the guy credit for being a different person, which is shout out, give it up for Biden. But he's not working with Republicans to get anything done for Democrats. He's like selling out. He's, made a deal with Mitch McConnell over some anti-choice judge. But he promised to be able to work. Not only can he not get Republicans to do stuff, he can't even get, famously, as we know, through the rotating bill, and he can't even get Manchin or Sinema to do anything.
Yeah, it's like the progressives want Biden to follow through on his campaign pledge to actually get stuff done. Yeah, even though that criticism isn't fair, it's fair.
It's so ridiculous. That's exactly what he's saying. Yeah, they want him to actually do what he promised. The one thing he has promised, though, I'll give him credit, is when he said nothing would fundamentally change for the rich. That was real. He was not lying when he said that.
He's nailed that one. Yes.
Yeah. But it's like all these turns of hand, right? They're just going from, obviously this is about his age, which is unfair, but still it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, well, it is a problem. There's a new poll in the New York Times today that says that a majority of Democrats don't want Biden to run in 2024.
Who knew that there were so many agists out there?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, all those progressives, when they're always asking Biden to do crazy stuff like get younger.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the progressives are always chanting like, you know, Dorian Gray or get younger, stop aging, you're too old. No.
Yeah, according to the poll, so 33% say the biggest reason why they don't want Biden to be the nominee in 2024 is age, 33%, but almost the same number say it's because of his job performance, 32%. So, you know, that's just the reality that Democrats are having to deal with now. And I don't, you know, well, you know what? Today we have someone coming on who might be the answer, and that is Kamala. We're going to hear from her shortly.
Oh, yeah. We could actually go straight to Kamala.
Yeah?
Let's go to Kamala being asked a big question. Or do you want to do, it's up to you guys. Well, before we go to Kamala, let me just give a little update, because as people know, we did cover the abortion stuff, and we're not going to litigate the issue of abortion, just how he's governing around it. But they didn't have a lot to do or say about it except condemn it. They were just telling people to vote, but they didn't even tell them why they had to vote, just to vote. They didn't even say what they were going to be able to do once the people did vote that would relate to abortion. But he did release something July 8th. So he did sign an executive order. And that executive order, I'm just going to summarize, basically includes ensuring abortion pills are as widely available as possible. Also, Merrick Garland and the White House counsel are convening convening lawyers and going to ensure those seeking abortions can cross state lines. It's not, I mean, on paper at least it looks good. It's a little, I'm not sure why they had to wait to release this stuff, given that they saw this coming. There was a leaked opinion. So yeah, and by the way, it will be distracting. People are guessing where I am. Someone asked from an outhouse, someone from a sauna, but someone cleverly said too many outlets for sauna. This is I'm away. I'm not in my house. I'm away, and this is a little Zoom hut. That's what it's called.
It's called a Zoom hut?
That's really what it's called.
Really? Okay. Yeah. All right.
They're like, you can record in the Zoom hut. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, a nice look at our future where all of us have Zoom huts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To provide us with our only engagement with the outside world is just through the Zoom hut.
Zoom
that's
hut,
the future, everybody.
Hut to hut. Hut on hut action. Okay, so let's go to the next clip, which is the Biden administration surprisingly getting very triggered and sensitive and snowflakey.
One of the big criticisms of the Biden White House right now, President Biden's White House, is that they're not responding aggressively enough to the challenges put forward. And there's a quote from the communications director, Kate Bedingfield, that's getting a lot of attention, responding to Democrats who say he's not doing enough to protect abortion rights. Joe Biden's goal in responding to Dobbs, that's the Supreme Court decision, is not to satisfy some activists who have been consistently out of step with the mainstream of the Democratic Party. What was your response to that, Ashley?
I was disappointed in that statement. As an activist, as someone, she nodded to the coalition that Joe Biden built. I ran the coalition's department on that campaign. Guess who was a part of that coalition? Activists. In 2020, when people took to the streets because of the death of George Floyd, it invigorated the base in a way that allowed us to have record turnout. Now, yeah, we were fighting an authoritarian president like Donald Trump, but these people going into the street saying that we need a bodily autonomy, that is the excitement that Democrats need right now ahead of the midterms. And to demonize them and say, they're not mainstream. Well, abortion is a very popular issue in the country, and it goes across Democratic and Republican lines. I think it was an unforced error, and I hope they address it. I'm not sure they will, but I took offense to it, and a lot of people have.
So
the Democrats are so slick. Okay, so they tell progressives and activists, you have to vote for us to, save democracy and safeguard all of your rights. And then when the activists, the progressives say, what are you doing to uphold your campaign pledge? Then the people respond, we didn't get elected just to respond to the out of touch, people on the fringes of the party who we browbeat to vote for us.
Yeah. So obnoxious.
Yeah. Well, hey, this has been happening for a long time. It's going to happen for a long time in the future.
I
All right, what do we got next?
Stony face. What was it? Stony pony face? Stone face pony? I've heard that. Or just yelling at people not to vote for him, to vote for Trump. I like that style of basically like crapping on the people who voted for you. But keep them killed.
Dog face pony soldier.
Thank you. Dog face pony soldier. Okay, what do we got next? I think we can go straight to Kamala.
Up on Capitol Hill, there is speculation among some Democrats and some Republicans that President Biden won't run for re-election in 2024. What's your message to those who say that?
Listen to President Biden. He intends to run. And if he does, I intend to run with him. So there you go.
If he does.
Doesn't sound very convincing.
Really?
Yeah.
Right? Also, can we play that again? Just show her face. She looks so nervous when he asks her this question. It's like she's been training all of her life.
Bill, there is speculation among some Democrats and some Republicans that President Biden won't run for re-election in 2024. What's your message?
Look at that face. She's so scared.
To those who say that?
Anyway, she's like,
yeah. The surest sign that someone's really confident in what they're saying is when they start to immediately cackle and awkwardly laugh afterwards, right after they say it.
Right.
Like he intends to run. Yeah.
I know.
You sound very confident.
No. To be fair, though, that is Kamala's way. I almost feel like we're being ableist.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, maybe we should praise her every time she does that.
Fair enough.
I mean, you have talked about, as a former stutterer yourself, you've talked about how Joe Biden got over stuttering. Maybe she lives with her own thing, which is laughter.
Yeah, maybe the Kamala laughter can be classified in the same category as stuttering.
Yeah, right.
But really, we have a historic running ticket. Two people who've overcome serious, whatever the terms are now for stuttering, and I don't want to call it a disability or it's an impediment, speech impediment.
Yeah.
And Kamala's laugh is his own impediment of its own.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. The Kamala cackle.
The Kamala cackle. It's actually a disorder. Yeah. It's Kamala cackleus is what it's called in the medical community. Yeah.
All right. Well, we have more Kamala, luckily.
Yeah, we got more Kamala.
Democrats fail, past Democratic presidents, congressional leaders, to not codify Roe v. Wade over the past 5 decades?
First of all, if you're expecting the answer to that question, I'm sorry to disappoint you in advance, but you're not going to get one.
Yeah.
Kamala doesn't really answer questions like this, so here we go.
I do believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
Sorry, I got to play this again. I certainly believe and certainly rightly did believe certain issues. She really likes to repeat the words like within a clause. All right.
Settled. Certain issues are rightly believed, but we certainly believe that we should have rightly believed, but we certainly believe that certain issues are just settled. Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right. And that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times. There's another example of this point, voting rights. Fundamental principle.
Okay, a few things there. First of all, they edited that after she said unsettled times. That was an edit. because I'm sure she probably went on to say settled and unsettled like 5 more times, because that's what she does. But also this notion that they thought that Roe versus Wade was settled so that they wouldn't have to worry about it, and that's why they didn't have to codify it. Like, have you been listening to the far right for years, the Federalist Society, what every single Republican says constantly about the issue? And she's saying, oh, we didn't think we'd have to do it because it was settled, because we thought Republicans, she's basically saying, we thought that Republicans would ultimately respect the decision on Roe versus Wade, the decision they've been pledging to overturn for decades now.
Right. Who could have seen it coming when I was, when I was a senator and there were those confirmation hearings for Supreme Court justices who we grilled about Roe v. Wade, and who, while they lied to our faces, as I knew, as she brags about, that she knew that they were lying. Did she forget that? Let's keep playing.
Of our democracy is everyone should have access, who are entitled to have access to vote. And now you see states across the country that are intentionally making it more difficult for people to vote. We thought that was settled. We thought that was settled at least by law in the 60s. We look now at the issue of choice.
The Supreme Court, that's a great example. They did gut the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah, they did. That's right.
That may have been a hint that it wasn't settled.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. We didn't know. We didn't know. We were just hanging out, having a good time.
Yeah.
And little do we know that behind our backs, the Republicans were trying to dismantle every law that they said they were trying to dismantle for the last 50 years.
We thought that they were bluffing, because that's what they always do. The Republicans are so famous for their self-restraint, their self-control, meeting us at the table, compromise. So ridiculous.
We thought that was settled.
What will this administration do to try to codify Roe, to try to, through Congress, put into law some of these priorities?
What we will do through the executive branch to ensure that women have the ability to travel freely, unencumbered, that women will have access to the medication. But we also need Congress to act, because that branch of government is where we actually codify, which means put into law, the rights that, again, we took for granted, but clearly have now been taken from the women of America. We've seen this in the past. If you think about it, the Voting Rights Act, Congress acted. Civil Rights Act, Congress acted, because where there was any question, especially through the courts or any other system, about the sanctity of these rights, we decided as a nation we would put it into law. That's what we need to do with Roe and the principles behind Roe.
Put it into law, because that worked so well with the Voting Rights Act, which was gutted. We had no idea. And as someone pointed out in the comments, take it easy, I believe. And it is true that she knew that they were bluffing again. She knew that they were bluffing. But she has so much on her mind, Aaron, because she doesn't know if she's going to run. She doesn't know what Biden's going to do. So she got distracted and forgot.
Right. And the question is, are they going to seriously challenge the people like Manchin and Sinema, who they blame for holding up the agenda? So are they going to actually go against them and try to get them out? And I've seen no indication of any of that so far at all.
No. And Sparky writes, abortion and gun control are very important, but SCOTUS brought them up now specifically to divide us, to keep us down on behalf of the establishment. I do think that, and David Sirota said this when he was on Useful Idiots, I think not his last time with us, but with Taibbi, how much the Supreme Court has a lot of corporate power, and how that's obscured, how much it rules on corporate power. And that gets obscured by these important issues, but they are obviously used as wedge issues so that we don't look at the countless times that they're actually in unison as a Supreme Court, or near unison, voting for corporations. Yeah, and you may want to check out my interview with on the Katie Halper show. I interviewed Samuel Moyne, who's really great on this issue. Yale law professor and history professor. We should have him on, Aaron. He wrote a great book called Humane.
I've interviewed him. He's great.
He's great. Yeah. Great voice. A lot of boom.
Really? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So who do you got next?
Let's see. Where do you want to go next? It's up to you.
I love this clip from Gina Raimondo, the Commerce Secretary.
Yeah, let's do it.
We should hit that.
Is pushing. The president is pushing producers domestically and globally to increase supply so that consumers start to feel it at the pump.
You brought up abortion rights, and it's interesting, whether it's inflation, whether it's abortion rights, whether it's yet another gun massacre in Illinois, there's a growing group of Democrats that are frustrated, believe that the president isn't showing enough energy, isn't showing enough fight on any of these issues. Is any of this criticism, in your view, justified?
No. Look, it's not about who's the best performer. This isn't about, performative. This is about who's going to go to work every day and get the job done and deliver for women. I have to say, on a personal level, I first fell in love with Senator Biden way back when he was fighting for the Violence Against Women Act. I was an intern at the Department of Justice.
To pause it there and mark that his Secretary of Commerce just said, I first fell in love with Biden?
That's a bombshell. That should be front page of news. Commerce Secretary in love with President. First Lady outraged.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Where's
a scandal
Jill?
right there.
Where's Jill?
Yeah.
I wonder if when Jill heard that, she was like, did the point her finger,
off with their head. I remember when I first fell in love with Joe. I mean, we all remember when we first.
Yeah. When were you? When did you fall in love with him?
I'll never forget. It was during the Iraq War.
Oh yeah.
And I saw him on TV. He was wearing a really, fancy suit, or early aughts suit.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how he had to give authorization to George W. Bush to invade Iraq and destroy it. And I just, I never forget.
In your stomach.
He spoke with such conviction and passion that I fell in love with the man right there.
Yeah. I think I fell in love with it when he threw Anita Hill under the bus.
Oh, yes, that.
Yeah, I liked that negging. I actually did as a kid watch those the Clarence Thomas hearings, and I remember asking my parents, I'm like, why does he keep saying I do not recollect? I cannot recollect.
I will say this.
Imagine what a nerd I was watching those hearings.
That was a big moment. Those hearings.
It was a big moment. I mean, not just because it's when I fell in love with Joe Biden.
With Joe Biden, yes, of course. I will say this about Gina Raimondo. I do believe she's the first cabinet secretary in history to declare that they're in love with the president.
Yeah.
So
we have.
And I'd never heard of Gina Raimondo really before this clip. So that's what possibly she'll be remembered for, is the Commerce Secretary who loved the president.
I mean, I think maybe this is why she hasn't been allowed to appear in public too much. I think they were maybe afraid that she had like Beatlemania for Joe Biden.
She loved him too much, yeah.
And they were like, we're going to let you do this, but you got to keep it under wraps.
Yeah.
We cannot let you appear in public if you're going to profess your love to Joe again. Obviously, she couldn't control herself.
And what's so weird is, and this speaks to maybe her personal feelings for Joe. She's like, to start that answer, she goes, it's not about performance. It's not performative. It's about getting the job done. And yes, that's exactly what Joe Biden's critics are saying. His performance entails not getting the job done.
Yeah, exactly.
Trying to separate, it's like, is performance some different thing than getting the job done?
Right.
No, the whole point is he's not getting his job done. That's the whole point.
Right. And it was the thing he promised was that he could get the job done. He could work across the aisle.
Yeah. Well, look, the lesson here is, folks, if you're going to work for the president, don't fall in love with him.
Yeah.
Because it's going to cloud your judgment.
It's going to cloud your judgment.
Yeah.
And you're just going to get your heart broken.
Yes, you will get your heart broken. Yes. I'm worried about Gina Raimondo.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's play it for a little bit. Oh God, only 400 likes on my birthday, and we have 1,382 people watching. Look what I'm doing. I'm doing what progressives want Joe Biden to do. Banging the table.
Everyone,
Guys.
show your love for Joe Biden in honor of your personal love for Joe Biden and the time you fell in love with him, like Gina Raimondo. Like that stream.
Yeah, like the stream, guys. Really. Wow. On my birthday.
Justice. This is a guy who has devoted decades to working to help women, to provide women rights, and he's fighting every day now. He just signed the executive order to preserve women's health care and reproductive rights.
Does that executive order, what does that order do other than tell everybody to follow the law? I mean, I don't, it looks like it's a glorified press release.
Ouch.
Well, you know, you put your finger on an issue. A lot of the things that are coming the president's way, he doesn't have.
Whoa. Okay, that's a little weird. Chuck asking an aggressive question.
I know, very weird.
Of a Democrat. Does that indicate that maybe he is jealous of Gina Raimondo's love for Joe Biden and he's trying to like actually, you know, come at her?
Oh,
and,
I see.
You know,
right?
Because that's just uncharacteristic of him to actually ask a tough question.
Oh, well, I mean, except for Afghanistan.
Did he ask tough questions about Afghanistan?
Well, he was critical of Biden.
Was it? Okay. Yeah.
I mean, like all of the media, that was the one time that they were mad at Joe Biden.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Have a silver bullet to solve. I mean, these issues have to be solved by Congress, or in this case, the Supreme Court and Congress. So he's doing what a good executive does, which is go to his team and say, give me every option, every tool in my toolbox. And that's what this executive order does. He's pushing the limits of his authority to stand up for women who've had a right taken away. And that's what I know people are frustrated. You know, that folks are cranky with a lot of good reason. But we have to focus on who's going to work every day and solving these problems, not who uses the most fiery language. It's who's going to stick up for women and deliver for them, whether it's health care, reproductive rights, or jobs, or training, or child care. And that's President Biden.
Oh, my God. By the way, just a couple of things that Biden did, since everyone's praising him on his women's issues commitments. In 1974, he said, I don't like the Supreme Court decision on abortion. I don't think a woman has the sole right to say what should happen to her body. He said that out loud. She shouldn't have the sole right to say what should happen to her body. In 82, he voted to allow states to overturn Roe v. Wade. In 88, he voted against the inclusion of exceptions of rape and incest in the Hyde Amendment. In 92, he voiced opposition for litmus tests on abortion for Supreme Court justices. 94, he brags about voting against federal funding of abortion on no less than 50 occasions. In 2003, he votes for a bill that would overturn Roe v. Wade by criminalizing the most common procedures used after the first trimester. And in 2006, he says, I do not view abortion as a choice and a right. But she's too in love with him to see that.
Love is blind.
Love is blind. Can you imagine it was Bernie who was like accused of being sexist or bad on women's issues? Jesus Christ. Sorry. Yeah.
All right. Well, onward. Who's up next?
What do we got next? You want to go to, what's Kinzinger? A little comment from, or actually, let's go to the Watergate one. Sorry, I just, spoiler alert.
You look at your previous comments, you said these hearings would, quote, blow the roof off the House. Major hearing this week on Tuesday, led by you in part. Another major hearing on Thursday. Will your statement still stand by Friday, that these hearings will blow the roof off the House?
Well, not literally.
This is Congressman Jamie Raskin. Sorry.
That's one of my favorite questions I've ever heard. Sir, do you stand by your statement that your hearings will blow the roof off the House? Yes or no? Is the roof of the House going to be blown off? Yes or no, sir? Yes or no?
The roof is on fire. True or false?
All right, let's see what Jamie has to say.
That these hearings will blow the roof off the House.
Well, not literally, certainly, but I think what I meant is that when you add all of this up together, it is the greatest political offense against the Union by a president of the United States in our history. Nothing comes close to it. A
criminal offense.
The attempt to overthrow the result of a presidential election through a political coup and the mobilization of an armed violent mob cannot really be compared to anything else a president has done. It makes the Watergate break-in look like the work of Cub Scouts. I just hope that we're telling everything we know in a competent and effective way to the American people, because, Madison said that in a democracy, the people have the right to the most awful truth, which is the truth about the nature of government and their rulers. And we need Americans to look very carefully at what happened.
But going back to the roof, you promised me that it would blow off. And what you're saying now is it's going to be more like a gust of wind will be entering the hall.
Right.
The actual roof will not be blown off, sir.
Right. There will be no structural damage.
Yes.
Would you like to update your prediction given the existence of the roof?
Yes.
Was the roof more robust than you had thought?
Yeah.
Did it have more structural integrity than you realized?
But look, some people disagree with me on this, but going back to what I've said previously on the show is, again, I think it's already established that what Trump did was really horrible. And I think he should have been impeached for it, and he was. But the problem now with Democrats is people like Jamie Raskin are saying we're going to blow the roof off with these explosive revelations about this huge coup plot that we're going to uncover. And it's just, they're not coming up with anything. And to illustrate that, let's actually go to the clip of Stephanie Murphy. It's clip number 5, Wilson, where she was interviewed on Meet the Press. And you remember a few weeks ago, Katie, Cassidy Hutchinson, that aide to Mark Meadows, came, and that for a couple of days, that was like bombshell mania. It was like Russiagate all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she spoke in that deep voice, which people, I think that helped people think what she said was more serious than what it actually was.
Gravitas.
Because what it really was just a lot of hearsay. And whether it was true or not, I just don't think it really brought us any closer to evidence that there was that we were anywhere close to a coup that would overthrow the government with these hooligans who stormed Capitol Hill. And on a lot of her key points, they were based on hearsay that people subsequently involved have said wasn't true. And a new example of that came out this week when Pat Cipollone, who was Trump's White House counsel, he had said that we're going to get charged with every crime imaginable, right? And let's find out what happened when Cipollone came before Congress on Friday and whether or not they confirmed what she had said he had said.
I've seen some reports, other fellow committee members said Mr. Cipollone did not contradict previous witnesses. Did he confirm testimony that Cassidy Hutchinson gave?
I think there was a lot of information that fit into this bigger puzzle that we're putting together, and we have different voices telling about the same meeting and more or less telling the same narrative. Of course, you have to understand these are all folks who have had a year plus since the events, and so everybody has a different level of memory or recall on specific details. But the overall message that we have been gathering out of all of these witnesses is that the president knew he had lost the election, or that his advisors had told him he had lost the election, and that he was casting about for ways in which he could retain power and remain the president, despite the fact that the democratic will of the American people was to have President Biden be the next elected.
Was it clear?
So that's a long-winded way of saying that no, Cipollone did not confirm the quote that was attributed to him, which is that when he warned that we're going to be charged with every crime imaginable. If you remember when Cassidy Hutchinson said that, I mean, if you were paying attention, if you weren't, I'm envious, because I just think these things are just a waste of time and energy. But that was one of the bombshell quotes. Oh my God! And the thing is, the reason why this Congress member can't say that Cipollone confirmed that is because Cipollone made clear to the committee before he came in that if he were to be asked about that he would say, no, I did not say that. So they didn't even ask him whether or not he said that. They didn't even ask him because they didn't want him to contradict Cassidy Hutchinson, their star witness. So it's just an example of what I'm talking about, where this is kind of like Russiagate, where we get these bombshells and they never work out, and no one ever corrects or reflects on why we're spending so much time hyperventilating about these relatively trivial things. Because again, what Trump did, we already know what he did was bad. So the idea that we're going to get some huge new revelation, some new bombshell, is, I think, a fool's errand, and it's a distraction from all the serious issues we're facing right now. And I mean, we'll see more of this in this interview. They're not getting anything new we didn't already know.
Right. And in fact, a great place to go from here would be the first Youngkin clip from the Virginia governor. And by the way, someone did say, it's Katie's birthday today. Here, let me read this. Let's hide this clip. It's Katie's B-Day. The like button would be a good replacement for purchasing Katie a gift. Guys, I'm going to endorse this replacement theory right here.
Yeah.
Just this one. Just this replacement theory.
Easiest birthday gift shopping ever.
Easiest birthday, yeah.
That's hit
and when Matt Dimitri or whatever clips this, my endorsement of the replacement theory, what replacement theory I'm talking about, everyone? It's liking for my birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's go to this Youngkin clip. Speaking of the way you people are hyperbolizing January 6th. Now, I do not like Youngkin, by the way, but let's listen to what he has to say.
The January 6th committee continues its work this week. Some members of the committee believe the former president has criminal wrongdoing. There have been many revelations made by this committee. What do you believe you should do in the wake of all of this new evidence? Can you continue to support someone like President Trump?
Well, let me begin with what happened on January 6th with the invasion of our Capitol was awful, and it's a blight on our democracy. I have to be honest, though. I talked to thousands of Virginians, and the topics they want to talk about is not January 6th. What they want to talk about is runaway inflation, gas prices. They want to talk about crime in their communities. They want to talk about education and the rights of parents to be engaged in their kids' schools. I just fundamentally believe that the media's attention on this, while I think it's important to the media, is really not what voters are focused on.
Now, this is partly why he won, because he was able to message effectively and speak to what people either care about or think that they care about. Now, I'm not saying like he was right to run on, taking like Toni Morrison out of the curriculum, but this is why they win. This is part of why they win, because it resonates with people when they're like, yeah, people don't really give a shit about this. It sucked, but not a big deal, or not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And that's the gift that Democrats are giving them, is by being this party that like hyper focuses on these Trump scandals, a guy who's been out of office for more than a year. It's a gift to Republicans who are going to say, they're so bad on the issue. Like, Republicans are so bad on the issues, but at least they're willing to acknowledge them. Like, Democrats won't even really talk about issues except for Trump. So for Republicans, it's a big gift to them.
Right. Yeah. And then they trust this guy when he talks all this mishigas about CRT, critical race theory. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to, speaking of Watergate, let's go to Kinzinger. He had some really interesting insights into Trump.
It doesn't appear to be breaking through Republicans. There's a lot of recent polling showing that the number of Republicans over the last year who view this as a legitimate protest on January 6th and not an insurrection has actually dramatically risen. How do you explain that?
Well, look, I think on the margins, yes, it is puncturing through. And I think what's most important is, again, what does history say in 5 or 10 years? Because I can guarantee, I can get about as close as I can to guaranteeing that in about 10 years, there's not going to have been a single Trump supporter that exists anywhere in the country. It's like Nixon. There were a lot of people that supported Nixon until he was out of office, and then everybody was like, oh, nobody supported Nixon. I figure that that's going to happen. But the other thing is this. We live in a media environment.
Okay. He just said that he was as sure as he could be. First of all, like he's a historian or a political scientist or something, but he was able to predict that within 5 to 10 years, no one was going to like Trump anymore. And the reason he knows that is because look at what happened with Nixon, who was not popular after he stepped down. After he basically resigned to avoid being dragged out. Trump has stepped down. He lost, and people still like him.
Yeah, they're still going to his rallies. Like, Nixon wasn't leading huge rallies with people in red hats after he was impeached. He waddled off into disgrace. Yeah, Look, Adam Kinzinger. First of all, he's on the Sunday shows, I swear to God, every single week. He just rotates. is there some kind of stipulation with all the networks that Adam Kinzinger has to appear? I see this guy more often than I see most of my friends. Every single week he's on saying the same thing about, how we have to make January 6th the biggest issue in the country, and we have to launch World War III. It's one of those two. Those are his top two issues. So, man, this guy's everywhere.
Yeah, he really is. So insightful, so astute. I really trust him on every issue, especially on, popularity of Donald Trump. Oh, my God. All right, where do we want to watch next? Let's go to... I want to go to... Did we do... Oh, yeah, we did Stephanie Murphy. We didn't do... I don't want to reveal it. We didn't do just great, reliable sources.
That might be... Well, we didn't do Youngkin on CRT. Do you want to hear Glenn Youngkin?
Sure, we could do that.
Okay. Let's sit through this one.
Education, one of your first actions as governor was to propose the end of teaching of, quote, inherently divisive concepts. What's an example?
Well, in Virginia schools, and we saw Loudoun County literally be ground zero, we saw students being taught that they should view everything through a lens of race and judge one another. And again, we're not talking about forgetting our history. In fact, one of the things we have to do is teach all of our history, the good and the bad. But we shouldn't play privilege bingo with children. We shouldn't teach children that they should judge one another, and one group's privileged and another group is going to find it hard in life necessarily. And we shouldn't blame someone and have them form a view that they're inherently racist because of their race or their sex or their religion. We shouldn't judge one another. We can do this. And so right out of the box, we worked in order to remove inherently divisive concepts from curriculum. We absolutely are pushing to teach all history, the good and the bad. And again, we can bring people together around this as opposed to dividing them.
It's a challenge, though. You say Virginia's willing to teach all history. Suppose your Board of Education comes to you, Governor, and says to you, Governor, the Civil War, we recommend it's too divisive. We want to call it the war between the states. What would you do?
Well, I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, they could.
But I don't believe they will. And I think what we all recognize is that slavery was an absolute black spot in our history. I mean, it is so abhorrent, and we have to teach it. And this is not a moment where we're running away from these topics. And this is why I'm so excited about our education agenda in Virginia. I mean, we stepped into our day one game plan with a comprehensive education plan to have the highest education budget in the history of Virginia, to fund special ed programs, to fund into laboratory schools, to provide choice, to give teachers raises. And we got it all done, all of it. That's what's so exciting, is that we brought people together around an education agenda, which is common sense focused. And again, I believe that there's certain groups that want to drive people apart, and my job is to pull them together around a vision for education that can deliver for our kids.
All right, free tip for the governor. If you want to pull people together, don't refer to events in history, such as a civil war, as a black spot. Okay. It's not
well,
the best
slavery, right? Wasn't he calling slavery a black
slavery,
spot?
yeah. That's not the best term
that's
for that.
even worse, yeah.
Yeah.
Besides that, though, I got to admit, he's pretty good at media.
Yeah, he is good at media. He's and he,
I'm a little worried. I think he'll run for president. Not
Watch out for Youngkin.
Now, but maybe is this like the moment that I fell in love with Greg Youngkin? Am I like, is this Raimondo's moment?
This is it. Wow. It. When he said black spot, is that what did it?
Yeah, he had me at black spot.
Okay. Well,
we should have an international update.
Okay.
Overseas now, where a series of events have rocked some of America's closest allies. Boris Johnson's explosive exit in Great Britain, intense fighting in Ukraine, and the stunning assassination of Japan's former prime minister combined for a consequential week. And senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell is tracking it all. Good morning, Ian.
Yeah, good morning, George. This has been an astonishing fall from grace from a man who delivered a huge election victory to his party just 3 years ago. But it has been a week of intense political drama. Firstly, the resignation of two senior government ministers from his own.
I think I can comment on a guy's physical appearance. I think it's fair, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of mousse, I think, in that hair. I think it's too much mousse.
You of all people, you've taken a lot of hair critique, both positive and negative. You certainly have license. So you're saying it's too much mousse.
Too much mousse. That's what I say. Too much mousse.
TMM.
Yeah, TMM.
I kind of like it.
You like it?
Is it mousse or pomade?
Well, that's a good question. Do people even still use mousse? Is that even a thing?
I don't know. It could be TMP.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, let's hear what he has to say. I don't want to objectify him too much. All right.
Own party over the latest scandal to hit Boris Johnson. He tried to cling on, but within a matter of days, it was clear he had to go.
After months of ducking and dodging growing controversy,
Also, this about Boris Johnson, not enough mousse. Okay, we can agree on that.
I mean, why can't we find a happy medium?
There's got to be a happy medium, exactly.
I guess British men are they're follicular extremists.
Mm-hmm.
They
go to one extreme or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the week when Boris Johnson's political fortunes went bust.
Good afternoon, everybody.
The UK Prime Minister caving to overwhelming pressure, he was forced to resign.
And I want you to know how sad I am to be giving up the best job in the world. But them's the breaks.
After 3 tumultuous years in office, this is the moment that Boris Johnson's political career comes to an end. He's had massive electoral success. He managed to push Brexit through, but his political career ends amid controversy and chaos.
Why is no one closer to Bojo right there?
Well, this actually is a pretty bold move. He's doing his stand-up as Boris Johnson is speaking. I mean, that's his piece to camera. He's doing it as Boris Johnson is, which is a great shot.
It is a great shot.
Standing off to the side. I mean, well done.
Yeah, well done.
Yeah.
He's already treating him like the has-been that he is.
Yeah. Now, when he says he's had tremendous success, I'm not sure what he's referring to there, because we're talking about a guy who had to resign because his own party abandoned him, and who presided over, for example, a major economic disaster because he served as a lackey for the U.S. proxy war in Ukraine. He was the guy who told Zelensky not to negotiate with Putin, and that's causing a serious economic crisis at home, which these people aren't allowed to talk about, because no one in corporate media is allowed to make a connection between waging a proxy war against Russia, cutting it off from the global economy, and then the inflation and supply chain issues that happen as a result of their massive sanctions, which they all support. They can't talk about that. So it's funny how no one's made that connection between, Boris Johnson presiding over a, in an increasingly fraught society, and the proxy war, which everybody is invested in.
Okay, let's learn some more about Bojo.
Johnson was badly wounded by Partygate, the dozen or so drunken gatherings in government residences, while the rest of the nation was under lockdown. He survived a no-confidence vote and appeared to have dodged yet another bullet. But it was revealed last week that Johnson promoted a lawmaker with a record of drunkenness and allegations of sexual misconduct. Johnson claimed to be unaware of this record, but he was accused of lying, unleashing a wave of resignations.
Mr. Speaker, isn't this the first recorded case of the sinking ships fleeing the rat?
One of America's strongest allies was finally forced to resign. Johnson's first call after his resignation was to President Zelensky of Ukraine, as more Ukrainian troops land in the UK to be trained. The arrival of HIMARS that can hit targets from 50 miles, donated by the US and others, a potential game changer. Zelensky saying finally it's felt that the Western artillery, the weapons we received from our partners, started working very powerfully. ABC News given exclusive access this week on the front lines, showing these weapons in action. But heavy shelling continues in the Donbass and elsewhere. Russia carrying on its brutal assault, shelling from afar as they continue to attempt to advance in the east. Fears are growing of a major attack on Donetsk, the last province in the Donbass partially under Kyiv's control.
Okay, I think we can move on to our last clip, which is a heavy hitter, because we have limited time.
Yeah, and I have to be out of the Zoom 5 minutes early. And then, guys, make sure you come to the call-in. But yeah.
All right. So we have two fan favorites for you to end the show. None other than Brian Stelter of Reliable Sources and our dearly departed disinformation czar, Nina Jankowicz.
Gone too soon.
Gone too soon.
Nina Jankowicz. Hold on. Nina Jankowicz is the researcher who briefly led the Disinformation Governance Board before it collapsed. She's the author of books like How to Lose the Information War and the new book, How to Be a Woman Online. Nina, welcome to Reliable Sources. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
You've had a little bit of time to process what went wrong this spring when you briefly were the executive director of this board and then had it all fall apart. Let's just start with, what was the goal? What was the Department of Homeland Security trying to do?
Well, the Disinformation Governance Board was a body that was meant to advise the many parts of the Department of Homeland Security that were working on disinformation, to bring best practices to bear and to make sure that we were up with the latest research, the latest trends in disinformation and countering it, and make sure that that work was being done in a way that protected freedom of speech, protected civil rights, civil liberties, and privacy. Now, what the Republicans and frankly some on the far left as well spun was that this Disinformation Governance Board was going to be a ministry of truth. There is absolutely no foundation for that, in fact. The Disinformation Governance Board was never meant to police speech. It was not going to police speech. And frankly, Brian, I have written and researched about government efforts to do just that. I am against them, just like many Americans are. And if that were part of the job description, I wouldn't have taken the job.
So the sympathetic view to you is that the Disinformation Board was the victim of disinformation. Is that how you feel?
What a hardball question.
Was the victim.
Wait, sorry. That I can't believe he hit her with that.
The sympathetic view, which is, by the way, 100% my view, is that you were the victim of disinformation.
Yeah, right. Is that true or false? Allow me to present your own talking point. True or false?
But again, what's so funny about this, and this is a point we made a lot, which is that, let's say it's true that the Disinformation Board was the target of disinformation. What does it say about the disinformation czar if they can't even refute disinformation about themselves? What business do they have trying to get involved in overseeing disinformation if they can't even rebut disinformation about themselves?
Right.
Of disinformation. So all of these narratives that the Disinformation Governance Board was going to be this Orwellian ministry of truth, and all of the harassment and disinformation that was directed against me was based on that falsehood. Based on that falsehood that was knowingly peddled by many people in the conservative media ecosystem and on Capitol Hill.
Why?
And frankly,
if that's true, what the heck was the Homeland Security Department doing? Why didn't they defend you? Why didn't you defend yourself? Why didn't the government explain what the heck it was doing?
Yeah.
I have never seen Brian Stelter so upset.
So passionate about something, I know.
Yeah. Where the heck was the government in protecting the disinformation czar, Nina Jankowicz? Where the heck were they? I want answers.
Now, I know this is like worse than January 6th.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love it. Let's get Brian more excited like this in the future. This is great. And by the way, look, the critique of her was not just that, the board was going to oversee a regime of censorship, which she says they weren't. I don't buy that. It also was that she was a crazy, sorry, I shouldn't say crazy. She was a partisan hack. She had spread disinformation herself about, people like myself. Like, she said that I was a part of a Russian influence operation. She had spread all the Trump Russia conspiracy theories, like Alpha Bank, the secret Trump Russia server where they were secretly communicating. She had spread disinformation. So not only does the government have no business in adjudicating or overseeing disinformation, they have no business appointing someone who has spread disinformation in a partisan and reckless manner. So that was the critique of Nina Jankowicz, which I haven't seen this interview, so maybe they addressed that, but I don't think.
Where the heck is that?
Let's go back to it.
Misgivings about the way things went down. And I think the first thing to point out, Brian, is that there was a disproportionate focus on me given my level of power within the department. I was not allowed to speak on my own behalf. And frankly, all the communications decisions that were being made about how to talk about the board were made above my pay grade and above my level of decision making. I was the executive director, but there were a lot of people that were involved that didn't take advice, frankly, that I had given them, and I had hoped that things would go down differently.
Wow.
Look,
I smell a scandal, Katie. I smell a serious scandal.
Too.
Somebody above Nina Jankowicz was not letting her speak in defense of her own disinformation governance.
That's
a scandal.
That's a scandal.
Let's have a committee. Let's have a January 6th committee.
Where the hell were they? You know where the hell the government was? They were muzzling Nina.
Start with the name. Even just the name, right? Nina, it sounds Orwellian. Any PR professional would say, don't call it that. You know,
he's so
there were
angry
just dumb
on her
mistakes
behalf.
made.
Right, and that belies the fact that it was meant to be an internal governing mechanism, governing how the Department of Homeland Security did its work on disinformation, not governing the internet. And that was one of the reasons that I ended up making the choice to resign, right? Because I felt like the government had just rolled over to the critics who had completely spun this narrative out of control based on absolutely nothing in reality. And
the government caved to big disinformation.
Big disinformation. It's such an ironic tragedy. You can't make it up.
Yeah.
To the fact that they weren't able to defend me, the person that they had chosen, the expert that they had chosen to lead this board and safeguard this work. It just didn't feel like it was worth it, especially given the fact that my family was receiving threats.
And you were about to have a child, and I want to ask you about that in a moment. These critics, there were many of them. They were incredibly loud. They say you're just a giant liberal, could never be appropriately hired for this job because you posted disinformation on Twitter yourself.
Well,
okay, so Brian actually asked about her own record, but he could have provided examples here, but he can't because he promoted the same disinformation.
Right.
Everything to do with Russiagate.
He's presenting it as like a ridiculous claim. He's like, true or false?
Yeah.
She was having a baby,
So
Aaron.
You know
what
a lot of
this
things
kind of stress does?
that to unpack.
It's called disinformation, fetal disinformation syndrome. It's the stress that happens to the fetus when the mother is being accused of being a disinformation tool. Where the hell was the government protecting her and the life of the unborn?
First, let's start with the idea that anybody would be someone that anybody on the political spectrum would want to be policing speech. Again, at the kernel of that criticism is the idea that this board would be policing speech, which it wasn't going to do. If that were the case, there would be no person nonpartisan enough, particularly in the counter-disinformation sphere, who would appeal to everyone in that role. But I, did not post disinformation. The folks that are honing in on tweets that I sent in 2016 when I had fewer than 1,000 Twitter followers, that, I was just sharing information about a presidential election as it was happening, as millions of other Americans were doing, using their right to freedom of speech. That wasn't disinformation, right? It was just sharing news. Other people honed in on tweets that were...
This is the whole point. They want to go after people, Twitter takes down tweets that are disinformation or that they deem to be disinformation.
Right.
She was doing the exact same thing. But she's just saying she was just sharing it. She wasn't promoting it. Well, that's the whole point. And that's what people are concerned about with this growing censorship is that actually the government and big tech are policing speech. Even people who share stuff get banned from Twitter. Someone like her would never get banned from Twitter because she's on the right side of things.
Right. Well, guys, this has been so great. And everyone liked this stream. I don't know. We should be up to 1,000 likes unless you guys are half of you are hate watching. Make sure you tune in. Aaron's going to do a call-in, and the link to that is in the chat. This is a great one, though. I love how excited Ryan got.
Well, I want to see hearings. Brian Seltzer, if you're watching, don't drop this issue. Demand accountability. Demand accountability, Brian.
Where was the government on January 6th, and where were they on Nina Gate?
Yeah. We need a commission into Nina Jankowicz's firing to get to the bottom of what happened.
Yeah. And you know who's going to run that commission?
Brian Stelter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Brian.
It's going to be the Stelter Commission.
The Stelter Commission. Well, yes, I'll be on Colin now on our Useful Idiots channel on Colin if you guys want to drop by. And otherwise, usefulidiots.substack.com. Katie, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Wishing you a wonderful day and a great year. And thank you for all you do.
Thanks. And thank you, Aaron.
Well, hey, you're welcome.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.